Hello again, and thank you for tuning in. My name is Eric Quintanilla, and today it is my pleasure to talk to you about a topic that is very near and dear to my heart, and that is servant hearted leadership. Sacrificial service goes against today's norms and against the norms of the day of Jesus. In Matthew 20:16, Jesus says that the last will be first in the kingdom, and the first will be last. In a world of 8 billion people, most would argue against this and say, no, go take what's yours. Never stop grinding, pedal to the metal, live your truth. But Jesus says, not so with you. This isn't the way my followers operate. Much like a soldier, we serve by truly living a lifestyle that demonstrates it's not about me. Matthew 20:28 says, just as the Son of Man did not come to serve, but to be served and give his life as a ransom for many. This is a quote that I read from Zenis Bickett that really resonated with me. Character is never proven by written or oral statements of beliefs. It is demonstrated by the way one lives, by behavior, by choices and decisions. Character is virtue lived. What does it mean to live out this Christian life? And how can we do it in our everyday lives? Here are some practical ways we can measure ourselves with that are straight from the living God Himself. In Luke 9:23 and 24, Jesus said to the crowd, if any of you wants to be my follower, you must give up your own way, take up your cross daily, and follow me. Jesus says we must set aside our own desires and renew our minds by the washing of His word. We can't just give up with every storm life throws at us. We must continually conform to His image. Colossians 3:23, one of my favorite verses, tells us whatever we do, do it with all of our hearts as working for the Lord. It is Christ that we get to serve. And when we serve Him, out of overflow, we serve everyone else around us. 1 Peter 4:10 says, God has given each of you a gift from His great variety of spiritual gifts. Use them well to serve one another. Another way to serve is simply operating in our gifts that God has given us. Sometimes edification may hurt, but as I like to say, it's not sacrifice if it doesn't hurt. A big part of being a servant leader is humility and accepting constructive criticism and knowing there's always an area in our lives that we can improve. One thing my pastor likes to say is truth plus grace equals love. I love the life of Stephen found in the book of Acts. Stephen is such a great example of a servant leader and how, as a waiter who was probably of low economic and social status, an ordinary person changed the course of Christianity by simply having a servant heart. Stephen was chosen to wait on tables for widows. Through his faithfulness in testifying, he performed many signs and wonders. However, opposition arose, and Stephen stood faithful in truth. He would eventually become the first martyr for Christ. However, his faith never wavered. While Stephen was stoned, he prayed, Lord, do not hold this sin against them. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Luke then writes in Acts 7:58, by inspiration of the Holy Spirit, that witnesses laid their coats at a young man's feet named Saul, who may very well have seen the glory of God that day, as it's shown on Stephen as he prayed. And Saul later converted to Christianity and became Paul. We know him as the great Apostle Paul, the apostle to the Gentiles, who wrote us the two-thirds of the New Testament. Even more so than Stephen, we see servanthood lived out in the life of Jesus. In Mark 9, he washed the disciples' feet. If anyone wants to be first, he must be the very last and servant of all. I believe that if we can live with a life full of thanksgiving unto the Lord for everything He has done for us, then we would want to serve Him. And when we serve Him and love Him, we serve and love others. On the day we see Him face to face, I pray we hear these words: "Well done, good and faithful servant."